everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated young adult book releases of spring 2019. So there are a ton of new and exciting titles that are coming out in the next 3 months. So I'm going to be talking about books that are releasing between April and June of this year. And this is one of the really big times for new releases, particularly April, and then like that first week of May, the very first Tuesday of May is always crazy for new releases. So these are the books that I am the most excited about. This is just my personal list and a list of books that I feel like you should also be really excited about. But please do let me know what is on your list or any that you're very excited for that I didn't talk about. But we've got some great titles to discuss, so let's get into it. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. This is coming out on April 2nd, and it is the second in a series of retellings that she's doing. They are called Once Upon a Con because they're geeky twists on fairy tales. The first one was Geekerella, which was a geeky twist on Cinderella, and I really liked that one, so I'm so excited for this next one. Her next modern retake is of The Prince and the Pauper, and it involves a main character who is desperate to stop this actress from forcing her favorite character off of her favorite sci-fi TV show. So the actress is just done with it. She has had enough of the scrutiny of the fandom and she wants to move on with her life. But for the fangirl, that is absolutely a terrible idea because that is her favorite character that this actress portrays. So she doesn't want to lose her favorite character, but they happen to kind of look alike, so there ends up being a little switcheroo, mistaken identity situation that leads them to one another, and someone leaks the script of the next season of this TV show and they end up having to switch identities in order to figure out who actually did it. I feel like this seems like such a fun fangirl twist on a story that admittedly I'm not that familiar with. I know I've heard of it before, but it doesn't stick out in my mind as a fairy tale that I really know that well. But I had so much fun reading her other book. I think that she really understands fandom and she delves into it, and I feel like this could address some important issues that arise in a fandom, particularly when they're scrutinizing different actors and actresses for really no reason at all, and they're very tough on those people, so I'm interested to see how it will be. Next is We Rule the Night by Claire Eliza Bartlett. This is a new fantasy novel that is coming out on April 2nd as well, and it follows two different characters that end up having their worlds collide. So there's a factory worker who has been making war machines and ends up getting caught using illegal magic, and there is a girl who is disguised as a boy on the front lines of the army fighting in this war. So when both of them are caught where they shouldn't be, they are only offered reprieve from their punishment if they are to join this elite women's military flight unit. I just feel like that sounds so cool. I love when worlds collide in books and you have two different characters that are coming from very different areas and they end up kind of meeting each other in the middle, and I just feel like this women's military flight unit sounds so cool, and I'm intrigued to see what the magic system is going to be like, and hopefully it will be a new, very different fantasy because I'm looking for some unique fantasies to get me back into the genre. Next is Defy Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is coming out on April 2nd as well, and it is the next installment in the Shatter Me series, so it is book 5. We got book 4 last year after a long drought of not having them, and I did enjoy being back in that universe and meeting new characters and everything, and I'm intrigued to see how it's all going to end up because I don't really know where it's gonna go. I was a little bit disappointed in Restore Me. I was kind of bored throughout it, so I'm hoping that this will kind of amp up the excitement and really get me back into that story. And I do have to say, I'm not a fan of the cover at all. I think it looks way too much like the other book. Like, I like the cover on its own, but it looks so much like Restore Me that I don't like it. Especially when you have the other 3 books of the original trilogy. They all look very different from each other in terms of color scheme. This just feels a little bit lazy, I'm not gonna lie, but that is just my opinion. Next is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan, and this is also coming out on April 2nd, and I would be lying if I said that the cover is not what drew me into this. I don't know why, but I look at it and I just think like Lee Bardugo in Six of Crows. I don't know at all if it's gonna be like that, so don't go into it with that expectation, but that's just what the cover makes me think of. So this follows multiple characters. We have a girl who can speak to the gods who has to save her people but not destroy herself in the process. And then we have a prince who is in danger and who's trying trying to decide who he can actually trust. And finally, a boy with a monstrous secret that is waiting in the wings. So they are all brought together to join forces to try and kill the king so then they can end this centuries-long war. I don't know if it's because it's all these like ragtag people coming together in order to defeat this greater power, but I still kind of get Six of Crows vibes, but like I'm totally down for it. I've seen some early reviews and they seem to be really good, so I'm excited to get my hands on a copy. Next is The Raven's Tale by Kat Winters, which is coming out on April 16th, and this follows Edgar Allan Poe as a teenager. Can you imagine? Like, Edgar Allan Poe in himself is like really broody and everything, but like in that angsty teenage stage, that just sounds so interesting. I don't actually know that much about Edgar Allan Poe as a person, so I don't know if this is like based on his actual life as a teenager, but either way, I'm on board for it. So at the time of this novel, he's really looking forward to university and marrying his beloved finally, but everything of course goes awry. I know that this deals a lot with muses, and I think it's like a magical imagining of muses. That was a sentence, but you get what I mean. His muse appears to him when he's just about to leave for university, and she wants to be seen, but they're supposed to remain hidden, so I feel like this sounds like it could be a very interesting story. I really liked the other novel of Kat Winters that I've read, which was In the Shadow of Blackbirds. I have one more book by her on my TBR that I just haven't gotten the chance to get to yet, but she does a really good job of writing like these dark stories, so I feel like this is going to be dark and twisted and kind of all about the soul of the tortured artist, and I like that stuff. Next is If I'm Being Honest by Emily Wibberly and Austin Siegemund-Broka. I read Always Never Yours by this author duo last year and I really enjoyed it. I think it was on my top of the year list, but I don't quite remember. If it wasn't, it almost was, but that story centered around Romeo and Juliet, and this one is a Taming of the Shrew retelling, and I am so excited for it. This is coming out on April 23rd, before I forget, and it follows the main character Cameron, and she has a reputation for being a bitch, so she is trying to tame herself so she doesn't embarrass herself in front of her crush. I just feel like this sounds like a recipe for hilarity, but also a lot of fun, and just all of the hijinks and all of that stuff. Just knowing the original Taming of the Shrew story, because I had to read it for a university class, I just am very much anticipating this, especially since I enjoyed their first book so much. I cannot wait. Next is Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dugan, or Dugan, I don't know, I'm sorry, but this follows our main character Lou, and she is planning on having the perfect summer. Nothing is going to go wrong, except there's a few things that stand in her way. One of the main ones being the fact that she has gotten a job at their local fair to dress as a dancing hot dog. I just love it so much. Like, the cover is so cute and it's a queer romance, and I'm so excited. Literally the line in the synopsis on Goodreads, it says that it stars a princess, a pirate, a hot dog, and a carousel operator who find love and themselves. And I was just like, how? This sounds so cool. Like, they all have their different roles at this fair, but the fair is also facing closure, and like, she's a hot dog. Come on! I think we have a real wiener on our hands. Ah! So this book is coming out on April 30th, and you can bet your buns that I'm going to go and get it. I really need to stop with these hot dog puns. Next is, of course, Again But Better by BookTube's own Christine Riccio. This is coming out on May 7th, and it is all about Shane, and Shane is an older character, which is one of the reasons why I'm really excited for this. She's in college, and she's going to study abroad in London, but her life has been really boring, and she feels like she's not actually doing it right. So that's why she wants to go to London, is to kind of shake things up a bit and add some interesting stuff to her college experience, which I totally relate to, like, doing college wrong, because I feel like my university experience was super boring as well. I didn't go and do anything abroad. I did do a backpacking trip though, but like, I feel like this is going to be a really relatable story for me, and I love when I can relate to characters, and especially when they're a bit older, so I'm very excited for this one, and I'm also so proud of Christine for this, and I just can't wait to read it. Next is Nocturna by Maya Motayne. This is also coming out on May 7th. Like I said, that first Tuesday of May is always crazy for new releases, and this year is no different. So this follows a face shifter, which sounds so cool. That just got me right there. I was like, face shifter? What? But she is caught by a mobster and forced to steal this legendary treasure from the royal palace. Meanwhile, the prince's brother has been murdered, and he is the first in line to the throne now, and he's like really panicked about that, because he's like, I can never live up to my brother's legacy, so he's doing everything he possibly can to try and bring his brother back, including forbidden magic. When these two characters' fates collide, they end up unlocking this terrible ancient power. I first heard about this book at the Frenzy Presents event that I went to in Toronto a few weeks ago, and they were saying that this is inspired by the author's Dominican heritage, so it is an own voices fantasy and it's not Western based, and I just love that because I think that there should be so many fantasies that aren't just based in Western cultures, so I'm very excited to learn more about the Dominican culture in this book. Next is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I've actually already read this one, but this is coming out on May 7th as well, and it follows the main character Emily, who is a teen mom, and she basically has had to make a lot of really tough decisions. She's living with her abuela and her daughter, and she's trying to take care of both of them, but she's not really taking care of herself. The only time that she has to herself is in the kitchen. She loves cooking. It is one of her absolute favorite things to do, and it's where she really feels like she can free herself. So in her senior year, her school is actually offering a culinary arts class that presents this opportunity for them to go to Spain for a week, but she doesn't think she has the time to dedicate to it, nor the finances to dedicate to being able to go to Spain, but she still really wants to do it. So this is really a novel of like self-discovery, and I really loved it. I thought it was great. This cover is gorgeous, and Elizabeth Acevedo is the author of The Poet X, which came out last year, and I believe it won, I don't know if it was the Prince Award or the National Book Award, but the point is, it was an award-winning novel. It was told in verse. This one is told in prose, but she still has such a beautiful writing style, and this was just filled with characters that I fell in love with, and it was such a rich and flavorful story, and it was just so great. So I recommend that you keep your eye out for it. And just in case I forgot to mention, it is also a May 7th release. Next is Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the third and final, you know, finale, get it? See what I did there? Book in the Caraval series. This was supposed to be a duology, but then they ended up doing it as a trilogy, so I feel like I don't remember anything that happened in Legendary, so I'm gonna have to reread that one in order to get to this one, but I am so excited to see where everyone is going to end up because there are so many things that happened in this series, so all the romances and all that, like, I need to know what's gonna happen. And finally for May 7th is Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. You might recognize this author duo. They are the authors of the Illuminae Files series, which ended last year. Very bittersweet because I was so excited to figure out what happened, but I also just loved that series so much. It was very cool. It was told in like this kind of, not multimedia format, but like kind of like that. Basically it was like you were reading like a case file, but I don't know if this book has any interesting format going to it, but it sounds like Six of Crows in space, and like I love that because it's all about this dude. He was at the top of his class and he has now graduated and he's so ready to get this crew of other amazing, very capable people, but he ends up in kind of this ragtag group of just dregs, and he doesn't really know how it happened, but he's like, I guess, okay. But that's not even his biggest problem. His bigger problem is the fact that he finds this girl who has been cryogenically frozen for years and years, like millions of years, I think it said, but he ends up saving her, and him saving her could be the catalyst for a million years war. So like, all in a day's work, I guess. But this line for the synopsis, just, I was like, yes, I need it now, grabby hands. So it says, they're not the heroes we deserve, they're just the ones we could find. Beautiful! In all seriousness, I loved the Illuminae Files so much. It was so much fun, but also like really high stakes and just action-packed, so I can't wait to see what they have for us next. Next is The Candle in the Flame by Nafisa Azad. This is coming out on May 14th, and it is a historical fiction fantasy that is set on the Silk Road. So when I was on Goodreads, I saw that the author describes this as women just being women in the best way possible, and that and like the Silk Road and that kind of historical aspect was enough to make me really intrigued. And I mean, that cover is absolutely gorgeous, so I'm eager to learn a little bit more about this story, but I think it's one that I'm just gonna kind of go into knowing as little as possible. Next is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing anyone's names incorrectly. I'm trying my best, I promise. But this one is also coming out on May 14th. This is all about a hunter who has disguised herself as a man, and she goes into this forest and braves the wilderness to try and feed and provide for her people. On the other hand, we have a Prince of Death who is assassinating anyone who dares to defy his father, the king. So both of them are really legendary figures, and they end up getting tossed together when the hunter is going and trying to find this ancient hidden artifact, and the king sends the prince to find that same artifact, but also to kill the hunter. I've just been seeing so much hype surrounding this book, and it sounds like a really, really cool story, so I'm really excited to have the arc, and I'm hoping I'll be able able to actually read it before it comes out, because it sounds like so much could happen in the span of all of these pages, and I want to know what's gonna go down. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is another book that I've been seeing all over social media with people just loving it. But this is coming out on May 14th, and it is a rom-com, which I'm just so into recently. I love fun and romantic stories. It's just amazing. I don't have a love life, so I like to read about it. But this follows the first son, Alex, who falls in love with Prince Henry of Wales after they have been forced into a friendship together because there was this whole huge scandal, but then it ends up becoming more than a friendship, and I'm just so excited for an adorable gay romance with royalty, but like modern royalty, not a fantasy. It just sounds so good, and like I said, the reviews have been amazing, so I'm hoping I will be able to join the chorus of people praising this book. Next is The Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Margaret Rogerson is the author of An Enchantment of Ravens, which definitely had mixed reviews, but I really liked it. It was one of those like romantic fantasies that wasn't too dense for me, so I was able to really get into it, but this one sounds really cool. So this is coming out on June 4th, and it follows an apprentice at a magical library. I don't know how she got that gig, but I would like it, please. Thank you. But she must battle a powerful sorcerer to save her kingdom. The synopsis was very vague, but honestly, that's all I had to know, and I was like, yep, sold. And finally, I have Like a Love Story by Abdi Nazemian. This was described once again at the Frenzy Presents event as a love letter to the LGBTQ+ community, and that just warms my heart, so I'm so excited to read this. It is set in 1989, and it follows some different characters. So we have Riza, who is an Iranian boy who has just moved into New York City, but he's hiding the fact that he's gay. His parents don't know, and he doesn't really want them to find out because the media is filled with terrible images of those that were affected by the AIDS crisis. Then we have Judy, who's an aspiring fashion designer, and her uncle is like her idol, and he is a man who is suffering from AIDS, and he's very involved in activism. So Riza and Judy start dating, and Judy's best friend Art, he is the only out and proud gay teen at their high school, so Riza is just kind of trying to find a way to break it to Judy that he's hiding something major and that he's been lying to her this whole time. I think this is set in a really important time period, and I'm very excited to read more about these characters because I think it sounds like it could be a lot of fun, but also like it's gonna be very heartbreaking, so that's a good combo for me. So those are all of my most anticipated releases for spring of 2019. Like I said, this is just the ones that are sticking out to me. There's definitely way more that I didn't get the chance to talk about today. I even have some on my TBR cart that I didn't get to talk about today. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'm also a part of the Bookmarked live show, which is every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all the information for that is down below for you guys. You can also follow me on all of my social media. I post updates there often, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!